I sort of looked at the intention of the International Women's Day on their website, and as we sort of said, it's about celebrating achievements, but it's also about encouraging conversation, encouraging, in our personal lives and our professional lives to look at the bigger questions and have the courage to sort of raise issues and safe space to sort of look at how we can find solutions, whether that be through policy or through community initiatives supporting women's groups or whatever. It's a really interesting concept, and I think you're right about how it grounds itself in sort of more broader society.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought it back to the day, because I was sort of going on the rampage about gender equality, but why would you have a day about it? And that's, as you said, those things, they haven't gone away. We've made huge strides, but you need reminding. And I think you need reminding, especially this year, because of everything that we've gone through, and the ways that lockdown and everything has impacted women differently to men.
Yes.
So we need that moment and that day where we say, are we doing enough for gender equality? As a woman, as a man, are we really, stepping forward and having that conversation? I particularly like the theme this year, Choose to Challenge, because I think the International Women's Day organisers always do a good job of having a theme that both men can support as much as women.
Absolutely.
And that's the whole point of this conversation.
Yeah.
Choose to Challenge is really something that men as much as women can do every single day.
Yeah.
And so I think it's very important that we take that moment on the 8th and today and really choose the challenge.
Yeah, in many ways, and the day belongs to all groups, doesn't it? Collectively, it is for everyone, and we can all play our part for sure. That moves quite nicely actually onto our sort of my next question to you, which is around this theme of choose to challenge, and what challenges you have faced relating to gender imbalance in your own professional journey, and how have you overcome them? How are you trying to overcome them? Be great to hear your points.
I really had to think hard about this, because there wasn't a particular moment in my life where I thought I'm suffering from any gender imbalance here, or there's one moment where I needed to choose to challenge, but more so it's just every day. It's just every day. So just as a bit of a background, I was in the charity sector, loved it, was in for about 8 to 10 years, and that sector on the whole, or at least the charities I worked for, were predominantly women. You had 80% of women, and the organisations probably had about 500 people who were working in them, very, very close knit. And then I thought, you know what, I've been telling businesses for a long time how they should be more responsible, but I've never actually done it, and I need to make that shift. So I joined Turner and Townsend just under 3 years ago now, and the built environment, the construction industry, is totally the opposite, because it's predominantly male.
Yes, yeah. In fact, I was looking at, so I think the Chartered Institute of Building say that women account for 10% of the UK construction industry. So you're right, it's sort of a complete opposite, a complete shift for you.
Complete utter shift. So you're going from this environment and this culture where you've got used to being one of many, and the way that people would approach problems. I mean, women don't all approach problems in the same way, but in terms of the style or the communication and there are similarities. And so going into a very male environment, also an environment where I was one of 2 people banging the drum for corporate responsibility at the time, you are the odd one out. And that was a challenge in a transition to, work out, okay, how do I act now, and how do I bring my strengths out when I'm no longer surrounded by people who I feel are like me. And it wasn't easy in any way, but I think what I did learn was that the reason they wanted me in the role was because I did bring that difference.
Yeah,
was because
embracing the like you said, the difference that you can bring.
The difference you can bring, yeah. I mean, we're a professional services company. We said at Turner and Townsend, we're cost managers and project managers. So we're very the most of the people around will be very good at data. They'll be good at numbers. They'll be good at that level of detail. I am not that person. Get me on an Excel spreadsheet, Kate, and I'm horrendous.
I hear you. Yeah, me too.
Awful. But in terms of understanding the grey, being able to work through challenges that maybe aren't as simple as that black and white, and being able to kind of bring people along in that journey, I think that my previous roles helped me to do that. And so those are the sorts of strengths that then I was able to bring. Whether that is more feminine traits than the male traits, whether it's just traits that I have, either way, I was able to sort of use those strengths, and touch wood, we seem to be doing a good job together.
Well,
so.
it's a really important point, isn't it? It's about recognizing difference, and sort of celebrating differences that people, whether it be gender or other diversity topics and labels, can bring, and sort of trying to integrate that and ingrain that within all levels of an organization, rather than sort of seeing it as a sort of a side project and something that's a tick box exercise. It's very much about sort of incorporating and getting different departments, different levels of seniority to appreciate the value that diversity can add to an organization.
Yeah, completely. I mean, value is such a good word to use, because that's really what it's about. I talked about how T&T need to have a diverse organization in order for us to be able to function and to be able to be continue to be successful as we're being, and underneath Vince and Clancy, we've done a terrific job over the last few years of that. But the penny really dropped for me only a few weeks ago, Kate, because I've talked about how we've got an unequal society. I've talked about how diversity is key for a business. Unless you actually have an inclusive culture, then you're not going to bring the value out of your diverse workforce as it is. And things like I'll give you an example. When we're in meetings and things, there's a rare occasion where you will find that somebody gets talked over, and that person is maybe more junior, they might be female, they might be different ethnicity, or the camera's not on the senior leader has got their camera on in a Zoom call. And again, there are people who are not as senior as them, who come from different backgrounds. And that might seem a small thing, but for the individual who is isn't in that powerful position, that has a big impact. And so now at Turner and Townsend, we're very much looking at, we have targets to be gender diverse, 40-60 split by 2025. We do look at our pay, obviously, especially with the UK looking at that, but we look across the globe as well. We do have unconscious bias training. We do make sure that in recruitment, we're looking at a 50-50 split. So we've got all of those things to help diversity. But we're seeing a shift, but not enough. Actually, for any business, I think looking at inclusion and challenging those everyday, do you go as far as saying microaggressions? I don't think it's intentional, but I do think it has, those little behaviours that are implicit in a culture rather than explicit, has a big effect on those individuals who, are not the majority. And that's what we need to tackle.
And probably highlighted even more so because we are working remotely. And so therefore, those softer skills of human interaction are taken away. So you're reliant on a screen, so it's a much more obvious, isn't it, when talking over someone. I mean, technology is imperfect compared to sort of face-to-face interaction. But you're right, it doesn't mean that those issues go away. In fact, you have to work harder to sort of overcome them and make sure that you're doing the right thing. Really important.